Streaming live on YouTube.
When I unmute myself, can you hear me okay, Mayor? Everything's
Yes,
working?
yeah, I can hear you, Jeffrey.
You might want to turn them up just a little bit.
Jeff, like I ask you to get started. Jeff should give our opening ceremonies when we get started. And Tony, would you give us Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, Ray.
All right, thanks. You ready? Like 6 o'clock. Okay. I'll call this Morgan City Council meeting to order. It is March 9th, 2021. As we call, we'd like to welcome everybody that's online with us tonight. For those that may be listening by the online sources are available. As we get started, we'd like to ask Tony if he'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we'd ask Jeff Wardell if he'd offer us opening ceremony. So I'll screen share that and Tony will let you lead us.
Okay. You gonna post the flag there?
Yep, just a second.
Okay.
The camera thing wasn't going to work because it would only show our camera, not the full screen.
There we go. Okay, if you can repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening, Father in heaven, to meet here as a city council. We're grateful for the opportunities we have to serve this great city, Father in heaven. We're grateful for this Morgan Valley we have to live in. We ask you to bless us and guide us this evening as we make decisions on different topics of the city, that we can do it in a way that helps and pleases the citizens of Morgan. We're grateful once again for these opportunities we have and say these things in the name of His Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Jeff. Okay, now we'll move the consent agenda. So if you look at the meeting minutes of February 9th, and also the warrants. If you have questions, you'll be able to ask questions. If you're ready for a motion, I'll accept the motion.
Had a couple of questions. Tyre Denise, on page 2, Morgan County Historical Society, what do we get from them?
So what that was is it's called a reconnaissance level survey. So we're looking at our historic zone. We're looking to try and get a historic designation in our downtown. And so what we did was cost share that. We paid half, the county paid half. That survey's been complete.
Okay.
And so that's what that goes towards.
All right.
And we also use that expense towards our match for the general plan project.
Okay, thank you. So to be part of the Historical Society, are they the ones that contract with the company to do it?
Yeah, they put the contract in place and we just
Gotcha.
them
Okay.
our half.
All right. And then look, just on page 3, an expense for equipment on the equipment repair, looks like on the boom truck. Didn't we have some trouble, it seems like, with our last period with an expense there? Just wondering if we have more, if that's it. Do we need a new truck?
We do need a new truck.
There we go.
Been ordered.
This would make a lot of payments, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's an expensive truck, but it is on order. We have a small bucket and a large bucket truck. The large bucket's over a year out. By the time you order it, we ordered the small one, but it's, I think we're now 6 months before we receive it. So we do have one. I think this is just one more of the same bills that we got on the same repair. So
Okay. For the moment, are we through with repairs?
yeah, as far as we know.
Yeah. Hard to know what's down the road.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Any other
Mayor?
questions or more? Tony?
Yeah, just a quick one. So do we make the law enforcement contract, do we make that payment one every month?
Yes.
I assume we do. Okay.
Other questions or a motion?
Mayor, I will make a motion that we approve of the city council electronic meeting minutes of February 9th, 2021, and the warrants.
I can second that, Mayor.
Okay, motion by Tony, second by Jeffrey, that we approve the Warren City Council electronic meeting minutes of February 9th, 2021, and the one set of warrants. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing no one, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, give me a thumbs up. We opposed? Okay, as the vote was unanimous, and these passed 5-0 in favor. Okay, next time is the public comments. Denise, we have anybody that wants to give a public comment tonight?
No.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, now we'll move down to item number 2 on the active agenda. Excuse me, that was item 2. We'll move down to 3 on the active agenda. That's a public hearing. We'll need to open the meeting for a public hearing on ordinance 2102 zone change. I'd entertain a motion from someone to open the public hearing.
Mayor, I will make a motion that we open the public hearing concerning ordinance 21-02, a zone change.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
Okay, moved by Tony, second by Jeff. Do we open the public hearing on ordinance 2102 zone change? Any discussion on that motion? Okay, so you know, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, give me a thumbs up. Anybody opposed? Thumbs down. Okay, motion passed unanimously again. We'll now open the public hearing. As we open this public hearing, the public hearing is for commercial general change to multifamily RM15. You received the information in your packet to look through and look at and consider. Start this public hearing. I'd like to turn over the time over to Mr. Wardell to explain what they're requesting. And then we'll open up to other public members if there's anybody else like to come from the public. Mr. Wardell, you're on. You're muted. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Little. We appreciate the time this evening and we appreciate everyone's time from the council. Ty, are you able to share the packet? Share your screen and show the packet there. Okay, thank you for that. So the property in question is 254 North and it's outlined there with the red line. If you'll show that, there you go on your cursor. So we own the property behind there, 88 right there. And our intent or the front, so the problem with this is the front half of this property there along State Street is zoned commercial. And then the back half is zoned RM15, which is high density housing. And so I guess our intent and purpose is to request a boundary change to move that current line, if you can show that current line right there, to move it roughly about 30 feet up closer to that, to the back there, right where Ty's showing it. And so we're not actually changing any zoning, we're just adjusting the boundary. So the RM15 is going to remain the same. the commercial is going to remain the same on the front, and the RM15 is going to remain the same on the back. And the intent is to make this property usable because right now it divides that back part of the property in half, and the property is in two different zones. And so the couple reasons why we think this is beneficial: number one, it kind of cleans up that line, so it's on a property line. If you look to the property there below your cursor, it runs on that property line, and then it just kind of cuts through the middle of this property. So it'll clean up that zoning. The second thing why we see this beneficial is it's the best use of the property. Otherwise, the property is kind of useless because it's not really big enough to do anything RM15 or commercial with that line right there. The third thing is we're promoting commercial by leaving that front lot. We're going to meet the minimum requirement of 10,000 square feet on that. And we're also offering, or wanting to do as part of this, we're going to give access to the back two access, one off that private lane. We own that 250 North Road coming in. So we want to grant an access to the rear of this commercial property just to make that property more usable for future. And then the last two reasons why we think it's beneficial is this will add a few more rooftops, which has a positive tax implication. We'd like to add a multi-unit house right there, kind of similar to what's on those 88 back there. Just like that building, we'd like to put a building right there that faces that 250 North. And then the last thing is we recently finished building 5 rental units in Morgan, and we advertised them about 60 days before they were ready for move-in, and they were ready 30 days before we even had them done. They were at capacity, so there really is a demand for more apartments in Morgan, and so this would at least meet that demand. If you're renting or wanting to rent in Morgan right now, there are really no options. If you look on all of the advertising sites around, there are really no options for renting in Morgan, and that's unfortunate. There's a demand for those that aren't ready to purchase long-term housing yet. So that pretty much wraps up our request.
Okay, appreciate that. On the call, I can't say at this point, Denise, I see Mr. Walker on here. Is there anybody else on the call from the community? Mr. Walker, here's like you're one of the individuals that have joined us from the community hearing.
Yeah, so I'm here. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
So I have a vested interest in this. I own the property. Apologize, my internet's not the best down here at the end of Island Road. Don't live at the end of a street. Just a second, I'm putting my earphones in. Okay, so I live down at the, I have a vested interest in this, in that my property abuts the Wardell's property, and I also own multi-housing, which is next to it. This green portion behind 250 State Street. That is my property there, which abuts the Wardells. Plus, I also have commercial properties on State Street itself. So I am familiar with the situation and with their concerns on all of this. So originally in the first meeting, I had a concern with access to 254. If you made that, understanding that UDOT is very hesitant to give multi-access to commercial properties because they want to limit the access coming off of State Street, not make more. By limiting the access, they get better flow through State Street and it creates a better flow. So when you go to Utah and want to have an access off of State Street, it is a difficult process if you're requesting additional access off of State Street. So my concern was on 254 there, is that by making the 10,000 square foot lot, and it's so close to another intersection, that there would be difficult having access to that lot. But I believe Wardell's have addressed that by having them granting access to their 250 north on that particular piece of commercial property on the front there. So that was one of my major concerns on that. Another concern is, or an observation is, I would echo what the Wardells are saying in availability of rentals. I have several rentals in Morgan, 32 to be exact, and I have a waiting list. There's no question about it, but that's because of the nature of my apartments. Most of my apartments are 20 years old, 20 to 30 years old, and the rentals are less money. Because the renter wants a less expensive piece of property or rental, those are most desirable because most couples or young families or whatever you might be are looking to live there for a short period of time to save up for that house. And so rentals are desirable. There's no question about that. I have a waiting list right now. I have several move outs right now, but I do have a waiting list for my apartments, and I believe that's because they are the lower rent apartments in Morgan. But I would echo, there is a demand for rentals in Morgan. There's no question about that. Whether we want to fill up our whole town with apartments, I don't know. You know, that's for city planners to figure on all of that stuff. But I just want to share my feelings that there is a waiting list out there for apartment usage. Now, along that same property there, I have several pieces. The one behind 250 is in the future will be developed for multi-housing, including the piece that is behind the Morgan Health Center. That is another piece of RM15 that will be developed in the future. I have no immediate plans for it right now, and I don't see it in the near future. I'm pretty much done building apartments, but it will be someday filled with apartments back there because it is a prime location for apartments. When we went through the master planning on all of this, one of the prime places for apartments is close to city, close to amenities, but yet off the main drives. I have no problem filling these rentals because they're off the main drive. They love living off the main drive because I don't have traffic. I don't have high traffic in front of my apartments because they're off the main drive. So moms let their kids play out there like crazy. If you ever driven the back of my apartments, drive slow because there's 10 kids out there playing in the grass field or on the road or whatever else like that. But the moms are just great with it because it is off the main road, off enough that they feel secure with them. So it's a great place for apartments because it is off the main road. So I feel strongly about that. I do see the concerns of commercial being cut down. If you'll notice, if you'll pull up my medical center right there, can you zoom in on that? Yeah, look at the line there. My parking is actually some of it is in RM15 because I had to expand the medical center it was a real need. The medical center came to me and says, we need to expand or we're leaving. We're going someplace else. So 4 years ago, I did expand that medical center and push the parking back into RM15. 200 feet of frontage is not enough. 200-foot depth is not enough for a typical commercial venture. You need, in today's world, you need lots of parking on almost any commercial venture. Parking is just key to any successful commercial venture. So I don't know where I'm going with that, other than that 200 foot of frontage limits the depth, limits on what you have there, really limit what you can put there. So just some of my feelings on that. You know, bottom line is, I don't see these lot line adjustments one way or another. 30 feet is going to impact very much on that. You're going to have to adjust that line one way or the other, whether it's pushing commercial into the RM15 or pushing back. Those lines have to be adjusted based on what goes there. My medical center is pushed back into the RM15 to accommodate that, accommodate what needs to go there. So either way, I know that's about all I have to share with that. So I have, neutral feelings either way on that, but I do have a lot of knowledge and vested interest in this type of thing. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else from the community that wants to speak during the public hearing? I don't see anybody else on the screen from the public. So with that, gonna turn your camera back on. Those who turn them off and do that, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Tony, seconded by Jeffrey, that we close the public hearing. Any discussion on that? Okay. Eric and Jeff, Dave, can you turn your cameras back on so we can see?
My camera's on.
My camera's on.
We're not seeing you. All right. At least I can't see.
Sorry.
Let's call for roll call vote then. All in favor of closing public hearing? Tony,
Aye.
Jeffrey,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and David.
Aye.
Okay. That was unanimous. So the public hearing is closed. Now we'll open up for discussion from the council members. I'll open up for discussion from you and the council.
Mayor,
Tony.
so as I understand this, can we pull that map up that Denise just had up a second ago? Anyway, my question is simply this. So if we allow this plat amendment, this zone change to move forward, as I'm reading the staff notes, it says that the setbacks are all going to be met with the exception of, it shows a 30-foot rear setback that would need to be increased to 35 feet. Is that an issue?
Maybe share that first. Ty, share that first and you have the packet. Okay.
I guess my question is there a way to achieve that 35-foot rear setback on the existing property? on the existing home, I should say.
That's a great question. As I looked at that, Tony, what my input on that is, if we're going to have that front lot compliant with the ordinance, then that back setback would need to be 35 feet. In some of the documents we were given, it had it at 30 feet. That picture up on the screen right now shows approximately 40 feet. But in the legal description, your documents, the legal description had this 50 feet. So I guess from my perception, what I think we need to do in order to make it a compliant lot would be to make sure at the end of the discussion that the rear setback is at 35 feet from the back of the home to where that new property line is going to be placed.
So
Is that clarify?
Jordash, is that a problem?
No, if you scroll down on that document, actually the staff recommended that that the second motion there addresses that it goes to 35 feet and we don't have any problem there at all.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're okay with that? That's okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. So that leaves that home then would just barely be over the 10,000 square feet, which would comply. So that would be okay as well. So well, I guess while I'm talking, Mayor, I'll just I've thought a lot about this the last couple of weeks, and of course, Dave and I sat in on the Planning Commission meeting a few weeks ago. This was discussed at length in the Planning Commission, but I've had a lot of time to think of it since then. I tend to echo what both Mark Walker and what Jordash have said, and that is, it seems that this medium density housing, whether it be in apartments or townhomes or whatever, there seems to be a great demand for that, far more than what we need for commercial property right now. I can't look into the future 20 or 30 years and see what we're going to need for commercial property. But when you look at that home 254, even without the zone change or the plat amendment change, it's still not a really big lot. And I'm thinking it could probably, as a commercial venture, only be used maybe as some type of a professional office or some type of commercial enterprise in that venue. In the last few weeks, as I've driven around the town, I see a lot of availability for commercial buildings, particularly commercial office type space available in the city. So the other thing is I quite like the fact that because of the need of this type of housing, it is situated in an area that is very compatible. I mean, there is apartment buildings contiguous to it. It looks like it would fit quite well there. Again, because of the surroundings. So I guess I just tip my hat, and I would probably be in favor of allowing this plat amendment and this zone change to go forward. With that, I'm done.
Further questions or comments from the council?
I guess, Mayor, I'd like to hear from either Tony or Dave that sat through the Planning Commission. What was their angst with this? What was going on that raised questions to them?
So Jeff, if you look at and I think it was included in the packet, the map of zoning of Morgan City, I think it tells I don't know if you can bring that up or not, Ty, but it tells a pretty good picture. There's very little commercial space out there available for use, if you will. It's basically the strip along 120 or along State Street, and then over there by the bowling alley. I think the and the vote ended up being to two that seemed to be in favor of moving forward, and the remainder, 3 or 4, were not. But there we go. You can see just the little darker yellow spot there is our commercial area. And I think it was a principle more than anything that we were taking away from commercial, and there just isn't that much to take from.
I echo what Dave said. It was an issue with reducing our commercial footprint.
Other questions or thoughts from the council?
I've got a couple of questions. First one would be to Jordash. It seemed like in the planning meeting, there was some question about ownership of the 250 or whatever the address is of the North Street that would provide that access. Was that ever nailed down?
I don't know where that question, I mean, I know where it originated, but we would encourage anybody who has questions to look at the public records and the county map. We had a title company pull it, and Mr. Sidwell, who brought that up, has a right-of-way down 250, a written right-of-way, but it's definitely owned by Wardell Brothers Properties.
Okay. So yeah, that'd be vital in that you're able to give the right-of-way then for the house there.
Can you guys, this is Cam Sidwell. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's accurate. I went back and checked the ownership. They do have, when I originally put that in, I put that I would have an easement there for any use that I might need for it, but they do actually own it with an easement that we can park cars in that driveway or whatever we need to for the existing building. So he is accurate.
Thank you. Second question is for Gary. Gary, if we make a decision and say the decision was to move forward to approve the zoning request, and let's suppose that next month the exact same request comes to us again, is there an obligation to approve the next request similarly?
That's a great question. The answer is in zoning, you never have an obligation to approve the next application. You have to be consistent with your zoning ordinance, and but when you get to a legislative act, which is changing the zone, not an administrative act where you're just applying provisions of the zone, you have a lot of flexibility. Your strongest argument for a correct decision is that it meets the terms of the master plan. But you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to legislative decisions. You could say yes to this one and no to the next one. And the reason I can see is you may want to readjust your commercial zones at some point in the future. If somebody came up and said, I would like to assemble all these properties into a larger piece, the council has the flexibility of looking at that and proceeding forward with adjusting those lines any way that you please, any way that you think is best. And so the answer, that's a long answer to a really short question. But the answer is you can do something different on the next application if you choose a good zoning reason for doing it.
Yeah, good answer. Thank you. I mean, you look at the situation there, and there would be other similarly situated properties that could somewhere down the road end up with perhaps a similar scenario, one way or the other, regardless of which way it goes. And I guess the converse would be true. If it were denied, would that preclude an approval on the next one? But it sounds like there's that does not. So just let me share my thoughts, Mayor. I think this is one where either way it's decided could be the right answer. I mean, I look at the shortage of commercial property, and I can appreciate the concern of the Planning Commission and not wanting to encroach on that. At the same time, you look at it, and I think in my mind, it's the request is reasonable. It seems to be an extension of what's already happening there. And albeit it's not a significant extension. So it seems to fit in. At the same time, it's not hurting, and what's being taken away isn't hurting another property owner. In other words, the Wardells own the piece that's being shortened or made smaller. And if there were any negative fallout from that, it's only themselves that they're dealing with. The comments that we've heard otherwise tonight regarding the availability of housing, I think that's important. I think it's worth entertaining too, in investors willing to invest their money to make that commitment in this particular project. In the planning meeting, the previous planning meeting, it was mentioned, I don't know where it came from, but it's clear that McDonald's isn't ready to put their store on the corner at this point. So, and who knows when they will be. And Tony, you made reference to what could it be used for. I think the fact that there is a use for it now, and that an investor's willing to put forth an investment to do that, I think we need to pay attention to that too. So that said, I would tend to be in favor of similarly of moving forward. Thank you.
Further comments from the council?
Hey, this is Eric. I'll go ahead and take a stab. When I came into this meeting, I had several questions. They've since been answered. So one of them was about the ownership of the road. I think we've kind of flattened that out. Some of the other questions have been answered. So I feel a lot like Dave. I mean, I think we're really, if I see this correctly, we're just dealing with basically 40 feet of property, which side to put it on. So, I mean, we're talking 40 feet of land here. Either way, I think would work good, but I think I feel a lot where Dave is sitting. So that's about all I got to say at this point.
I think
Jeff or
I kind of
Jeffrey?
concur. I like to hear, the planning commission and make sure we're hearing from all sides and we're still protecting and keeping our commercial. It might be a little bit smaller than it was originally, but if we've got somebody that's ready to put a shovel in the dirt and do something productive with that piece of property and still maintain the current zoning and what we have, I feel a lot better and know a lot more now than I did coming into the meeting. So I appreciate the education from all of you.
Jeff, any input from you, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's the best thing for the piece of property that I can see. It's the best use for it. So I see no problem with moving forward with it.
Okay.
Mayor, may I make one more?
Yes.
May I make one more comment, Mayor? Would that be all
You
right?
bet, Tony. Sure. Go ahead.
So I just want to, I was going to do this and I forgot. I do want to express my appreciation and thanks to our planning commission. This was a difficult decision for them. I don't remember, what were we, David? Maybe a couple of hours they spent discussing this item. So
There was a lot of discussion.
there was a lot of discussion, a lot of thought went into this, and I appreciate the effort of those that are serving on the planning commission. They have a tough job and a lot of responsibility. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them and express my appreciation to them for what they do. A lot of thought was put into this.
They did a great job.
Is somebody ready for a motion?
Mayor, I need to ask
Go ahead,
Gary
Jeff.
something. Gary,
Go ahead.
hey, do I need to excuse myself on this? Gary,
Your last names look very familiar.
it is. Question is, did Uncle Jeff excuse himself?
Oh, okay. I figured there was some connection there. You know what? You've come this far. I think you just go ahead and
All right, I just wanted to
vote on it.
clarify it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you bet. Thanks for asking, Jeff. So typically you would up front, but But this is just fine. The conversation's been good, and I think you can just move forward. So,
All right.
Let me mention a couple items that if you decide to make a motion to pass, there's a couple of things I would think we want to include in that. Tony mentioned it before. As you look at the last page of the staffing notes, I think we want to probably, if the council wishes to make a pass the resolution, I think we need to take a look at the last line. Scroll down that. Nope, scroll back up the other way. Okay, right there. That last line talks about, as Tony mentioned, upon the conditions, the two conditions that was mentioned here. One is that the rear setback of the single house property be increased to 35 feet. And Tony asked that, and Wardell's answered that would be appropriate, and they were okay with them. And the other is that we also asked for the easement along 250 North to be recorded. And they've also said they would plan on doing that. I'd like to suggest that if you decide to make a motion to pass the resolution, that it be contingent upon those two conditions. In addition to that, if that's the direction the council wants to go, that then would also change what's in your packet as attachment A. That would need to be, attachment A would need to be changed also to reflect that 25 feet. So that attachment A would need to be also part of your motion to adjust and change attachment A, which is legal description, to reflect that 35-foot setback. And then this one right here, because the description there, that describes the just a 30-foot setback. The other thing that would need to be done then in the ordinance makes reference to this attachment A. So if we make a motion with the stipulation that the 35-foot setback be applied, then that would also trigger this legal description needs to be changed and adjusted, which would also trigger the number of square footage in the ordinance to coincide with the legal land description. Some potential verbiage could be that the amended to reflect the 35-foot setback required by city ordinance of the legal land description. And also that would coincide with the legal description of the square footage in the ordinance. That's pretty wordy, but I think we want to include that information in the motion if you decide to make a motion to pass ordinance 2102. Did that make any sense to anybody?
Yeah, I think we could try something.
Hey, if somebody's ready, I'll entertain a motion.
So, Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 2102, an ordinance amending the zoning designation of a portion of property located at approximately 254 North State Street by changing the zoning designation thereof from commercial general to multifamily, providing for the amendment to the zoning map, providing for repealer, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Subject to the condition, and upon the condition that the rear setback of the single family property is increased to 35 feet, and that an access easement is recorded along 250 North for the single family property, and that the attached Exhibit A is modified to reflect the increased 35-foot setback.
And Mayor, do we need to mention that it also changes the legal description?
That's what they just said. Attachment A is a legal description.
Okay,
Attachment A.
all right. Okay.
Yeah, that one. And then one more piece, Dave, was that the square footage in the ordinance would then reflect the new legal description.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add that. The square footage of the ordinance reflects the new legal description. Quit laughing, Gary.
Quite an ordinance. Very well put, David. I'll accept the second if anybody's in the mindset the second, I'll accept the second.
Very good, Dave. I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Dave and second by Tony. Denise, you want me to try and restate that, or you got it?
I don't think I could restate it. It's recorded.
It was a yeoman's job. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was, well done, David. Well done. Okay. Been moved and seconded that we pass ordinance 2102. You can see what the ordinance is with those stipulations David mentioned, and they were well worded. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. This ordinance will go by roll call. Tony,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Jeffrey,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and David.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed unanimously. We had 5 ayes on that motion. And so with those stipulations, Wardell Brothers will, I'm sure, work on those stipulations and bring back that documentation to the city office. So then we can officially sign and move on with this ordinance. Any questions from the council? Okay, we'll now move to item number 4 on your agenda. Item number 4 is Resolution 2107 bid award. We have Lance Prescott on with us. Lance is our streets personnel and also Ty. So I'd like to turn the discussion over to Ty to open this up, and Lance will let you make some comments as well. So Ty, would you introduce us to this, and then Lance, you can comment on as well.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. So this is our road project for the years to do a leveling course and overlay on Island Road. We're doing this project at the same time as the county, so it will be around the bend in the city up to the city boundary, but it will also go down the rest of Island Road, the portion that the county owns. We put it out for bid, and Staker Parson came back as the low bid. We did compare pricing with the county, and we got a real similar pricing, both of them from Staker Parson. So it's we feel really good about the pricing and the fact that it's the same company doing the city and the county project, so they can coordinate their schedules with themselves to do essentially the whole road as one project. That's all I have. Lance, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, the county actually has a multi-year contract with Parsons, and we were within, I think, about $4 per ton on the average. So for them, a multi-year thing, it's just real good pricing. There may be a few, we do have some over excavation and patch work we're going to do on Island Road, and the pricing on all that was really good. I'm probably going to end up doing a few more areas. Meadow Creek Way has an area that's fallen apart, and while we're down there in the area, try and get everything in as good a shape as we can while we're working right there.
Okay. Any comments from the council or question?
So maybe Lance or Ty or both of you, this is just an observation, but I was really quite surprised that each of the bids came in respective of each other fairly close. Does that tell a story?
Just that it's real, we're getting competitive pricing.
Mm-hmm. I think we feel good about that. Yes.
Yeah, and they came in just under the engineer's estimate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other indicator that you look at is the spread over the different contracts, but then you also look at what our engineers estimated, and they came slightly under the engineer estimate. So part of that's the time of year. I think they got really competitive and Staker, I think just edged out the other next lowest bid because they're already up here doing work. It's not, we feel real good about it because it's a small project. I mean, it's really relatively small as far as road projects go. And so it was nice that we got the bids that we got.
When you say small project, our portion, but when you combine that with the county, does it make it more significant?
Yeah, yep, for sure.
Yeah, for them. Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you. But you know, I do have one other. The engineering statement in the middle of the engineering from the Jones and Associates statements made. If the council agrees that agrees with this recommendation, please pass a motion accepting the bid and awarding the project to Staker in the amount of 165, 211 or 213. I don't see the dollar amount listed in the resolution. Do we need to include that?
In the resolution, the dollar amount's not listed there, but there's different word. This is a different wording than we've used before. It talks about having the agreement in a form that both city manager and city attorney and parsons can all agree on, and would be based on the acceptance of their bid. The reason we're not putting an exact amount in here is, and that gives Ty, in paragraph 2, it gives Ty the leeway to negotiate some potential changes rather than bringing it back every time there's a money change. Remember before we had that discussion, we tied it to a dollar amount, but to bring it back every time there was a change in that order. So the new wording, if you look at the front of that resolution, that new wording ties it to approval of the city manager, the city attorney, and parsons based on the bid given to us, and allows city manager opportunity to make changes as needed. Good observation, David. Good pickup on that. But that's the reason there's not an amount specified in the resolution.
Okay, so the resolution then is accepting the bid from the Staker,
yeah,
and leaving it up to the management to negotiate, I guess, dollar amount.
Yeah, well, it's tied to the bid. It's also tied to Gary and Ty both signing the agreement with Parsons based on this bid.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't negotiate the price.
No,
It locks the pricing in, but
price is locked in.
for example, if we say, let's go ahead and extend this, or we had something else come up, it's not a finite dollar amount, but we lock that pricing in so that we still meet both of our needs. Or if something comes up in the middle of the project that causes a change order on something that was not anticipated, it gives us the flexibility to work with them. So
suppose there was something unseen that added another 35% cost. Is that something that we need to discuss?
So in that, it puts it on
that.
me. I bring that back to council and give you updates as the project goes on. If we have something that, some major change of events during the project, but that's my job, to keep the council appraised of any major changes. So.
We use the word significant. How's that? Any significant change?
Well, you brought up 35%. I would call that significant. But if it's just more of the same, or it's a little wider than we thought, or something like that, or we're here, we decided that we're gonna go ahead and replace a section of water line or something that we discovered, and it causes a delay or something like that, then we just work through that, with
Sure.
do little change orders along the way without arbitrarily, going over a finite dollar amount. So
yeah. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Other questions from the council? Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Eric.
got one.
I guess with that, we've had,
Go ahead, Eric, then Jeffrey.
Okay. Hey, my question is maybe for Lance. The process on this project is how they're going to do that leveling course, and then it says they're going to put 2 inches of asphalt. Can you just briefly talk about that process, just so that when people start asking me a million questions, what's going to happen, I at least got an understanding of the process of this?
Yeah, most of that road is flat. There's spots in the middle where it actually puddles water. The level course, basically, they'll drag the edge of their paver along the shoulder right on the ground and leave basically no asphalt, and hold up maybe 2 inches or so in the middle, which or 3, depending on what it is, and that'll give us a 3% crown to help the watershed. And then they'll come back over and actually do a 2-inch overlay on top of that. That way you're not trying to do 5 inches of asphalt in the middle and get good compaction. It just breaks it up, so they'll do it in 2 passes.
So basically, they're not going to road mill or dig anything up. They're just going to level kind of put a leveling course on first, and then they'll come back and pave over top of it. So they'll put 2 layers on, is what I'm understanding.
Yeah. And we do have some areas where it's soft and it's falling apart. There's just some small areas we are going to mark out, and they're going to dig down, haul new material in, and they'll actually patch that back in, and then come back after that and do that level course. And then
Yeah, because I was going to say that because it seems like there's a few soft spots down this road in a few places. So
yeah, a lot of the problems where it's fallen apart, I think, had to do with secondary water when you actually go look at where it is. And I think it's been long enough that the settling from that's done. But there are some areas where, a couple areas this winter where we had some moisture and it never really got cold and froze hard, and then last year as well, the asphalt just fell apart. So we're going to dig those areas out and patch that back in and get some good material underneath it. And with the added thickness of the asphalt, I think we should be good for a long time.
and then as they make that road obviously taller, they'll make a little transition into the driveways for everybody.
Yeah, we're gonna clean up and get like at Webster Lane, we're gonna kind of do a little apron so they're not tearing the edge of the asphalt up. Driveways will get a little apron, and then we're gonna do shouldering. Everyone who just has gravel driveways, it'll be shouldered. That's all part of this.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Jeffrey?
well, that was some of my concern too, to address the driveways and everything else. And there isn't going to be any more curb and gutter sidewalk added in any new areas along this road at this time, correct?
No, this is just asphalt.
Road.
Yeah, so you'll get that question, but it's a maintenance project. It's not a road rebuild. Some people will get excited because it'll look like, it'll essentially be a brand new surface, but we're not rebuilding the road, doing the water and sewer lines and adding curb, gutter, sidewalk and sumps at this point. The bridge is our main focus on road funding right now. And so it's a significant improvement, for our entire annual budget, but it is a maintenance. So, if you get asked that question, that's what we're trying to do, is just hold that road together.
We're repairing the Oregon Trail. Hallelujah.
And just so the council is aware, we are going to send a letter out to all the property owners along there. There are several people who've contacted me about lots they want to develop or flag lots, so that everyone is going to be aware, and they'll have about 3 months or 3.5 months for any work that they need to do with utilities. So hopefully when we get this done, 3 weeks later, someone isn't going to want to dig the road up because they forgot they wanted to do something.
You know, when we redid roads 100 South in particular, it seemed like there were some, I won't say penalties, but some elevated cost if you had to do that, if you had to put a lateral or a cross line in or something. Is that still in place?
Yes, for 3 years, it's a $5,000 minimum road cut fee. For 3 years after the project's complete.
Would that be well to mention in your letter, Lance, do you think?
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Further comments or questions?
I think you ought to do it. I think you ought to white top it and do it all in concrete. Just kidding.
Isn't that a conflict of interest, Tony? Just saying.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Is that an offer of free concrete? Is that what I heard?
But I think we're busy enough as it is, so.
Okay. Is there anybody ready for motion?
Mayor,
Tony,
I will make a motion that we approve of resolution 2107, 21-07, authorizing an agreement with Staker Parson Companies for the 2021 street maintenance and improvement projects, authorizing further negotiations and change orders necessary for the completion of the 2021 street maintenance and improvements projects.
is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, moved by Tony, second by Jeffrey. We passed resolution 2107, authorizing an agreement with Staker Parsons Companies for the 2021 street maintenance and improvement projects, authorizing further negotiations and change orders necessary for the completion of the 2021 street maintenance and improvement projects. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Seeing none, proceed to vote. We'll go by roll call. David,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Jeffrey,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and Tony.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed unanimously with 5 ayes. Okay, the next item, we'll go to city reports and business. Those city council got anything they want to ask or questions? I'll let you think about that. We'll have Ty give us any reports he wants as far as city manager reports. We'll come back to council for any question reports you have. And we'll see if Gary dares tell us anything about the legislature at the end.
Okay, thanks. So the first item that's actually on the agenda, we kind of covered during the approval of the warrants. That's that reconnaissance level survey for the historic district that we participated in with the county. Just wanted to make you aware that that's been complete and it's being reviewed to see if we qualify for historic designation. The Historic Society is going through that report right now to look at the inventory of homes as well as businesses listed there. The general plan update, just wanted to kind of bring you up to speed. The survey has been complete. We did the community survey. I think there was pretty good participation on that, and they'd like to do a report on just the survey at right before the next council meeting. So maybe like 5:30 or something. Anyway, we'll get that scheduled, but that's a good opportunity for the entire council to get an update on what the community results of that community survey, what they're feeling like and differing opinions and that sort of thing. The website's already has been created. There's I think some interaction going on that website too for people to post their comments. We're establishing some focus groups next that will take certain discussion items, just differing views and interests. Those are being established and they'll be invited to kind of all chime in next. Just some of those focus groups, just so you're aware, things like parks and recreation, roads and infrastructure, agriculture, outdoor recreation, and historic committee, the Chamber of Commerce and Business community, the development community, so people doing subdivisions, as well as some home builders, the mining and extraction industry, and then maybe the school district, just to get their view on how land use is impacting their, the way the school sees the world. So those are some of the focus groups. I feel like the project's going well. We're still right on track. It's moving along. I'm just so glad we have a contractor on board, because I'd never be able to complete this project in a 5-year time frame. So it's good to have somebody leading the charge, and it's been keeping us busy.
Before you leave that,
Okay.
well, maybe we could ask you or Denise to send out that link to the website. So the council wants to go and look, see what's being said there, they can go check that out. So maybe Denise will try to send that out. And then also next week and the following week, there are scoping meetings. I don't know if that's something you want to invite all the council to. I mean, I thought that was just for the general public to have input on. We need to start announcing those 2 scoping meetings and send that link out.
Okay. Yeah, we can send those links out. So those are just more of a listening exercise, but you're welcome to attend those. So it's kind of the public open public comment, basically, in a virtual format. I just forgot the dates, but
It's on the 18th, next
24th.
Thursday, the 18th, and the 24th on following Wednesday.
and the 24th. So, okay, yeah, I'll send those out, or to the council. We'll send the invites to those.
Okay.
That'd be good. Anything else on the general plan while we're talking about it? I was just motoring along, so yeah, just chime in if you have anything while I'm talking about it. So the hotel is having an open house on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, from 4 to 6. The chamber is helping out with that. There'll be an ad in the newspaper. It's a free event, so they're going to have some free tacos, free cookies from Mama Lakes, some prizes. They'll be raffling off some free rooms and give the community a chance to come and tour the facility. So if any of the kids are interested in what the swimming pool looks like, or anybody wants to see what the rooms look like, that's going to be kind of a fun event, but really just show the support of the community of the hotel. And then they have a official ribbon cutting ceremony on the 29th. And so that'll be more of the official, the mayor will be there to represent the city. Any city council members are welcome to attend. But from corporate, the corporate representatives from Cobblestone and those folks will be there, some county officials. So that's the more formal ribbon cutting, and the open house is more of a community party. So
The ribbon cutting is on Monday the 29th. It's at 10 o'clock in the morning. So 10 o'clock a.m. on Monday, March 29th is when that is.
Yep. Thanks, Mayor. What's that? Oh, yeah, and if I didn't mention, yeah, the open house is from 4 to 6 in the evening on the 17th. So, so the carbon-free power project, I was just going to make the council aware that there's a letter of intent that they just received from a utility in the northwest. I should have printed it and put it in the packet, but there's a letter of intent for them, just so I'm just making the council where there's still interest in the project, and they're interested in the 150 megawatts of power, which is actually more than we have subscribed right now as UAMP. So that kind of doubles the size of the project. And
Wow.
well,
that's good to hear.
yeah, I remember when we went through that process, you wanted updates, and I apologize. I should have printed that letter of intent and put it in the packets. I can just email that out to the group so you're aware of it, forward the email. But they are doing their part in making sure that there's continued interest. I think after what happened in Texas, there's other people are thinking, we got to have some base load and something that's a mix of things. You can't just have everything in all your eggs in one basket. So, we're starting our budget process. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Just a side note, did you see what with their system when we learned that Texas didn't have, just like you say, opportunities to draw from other areas. They were their own entity. But did you see what the prices ended up being on some of their peak megawatt hours? Upwards of $24,000.
Yeah, for a home. Yeah,
just for power. Yeah, for a home. For what should have been $25 was in the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Just based on, supply and demand, just based on market.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, so they're on their own grid. Hopefully we'll never run into that scenario, but anyway, so we're starting the budget process. Internally, we've kind of met as staff. We're going to be getting our priorities together. If you've been reading the financial statements that the auditors put out and read through those, you'll see that there's some recommended amendments to the budget, the current budget that we need to make. Just want you to know that I'm aware of those, and we'll be planning that to amend the budget when we get closer. There's some positives and then just a few things unexpected. Most of the unexpected has been attributed just to the adjusting to COVID. Some of the overages are just some decisions that we've had to make, but overall in the balance, we're still in a strong financial position. We're doing well. So the biggest area of concern is the water department. That last project that we had was really taxing on the finances, and then we have a handful of meters, quite a few meters that have needed replaced, and I've made the decision just to go ahead and get those replaced, because if they're not reading correctly and we're not billing correctly for water usage, it's kind of a double whammy. So anyway, we do have a impact fee. We want to get the impact fee study done and a rate study. We're working towards both of those. So I'd like to have those wrapped up so that in the new budget year, we make sure that the rate recommendation is in place to keep us afloat, and that we're planning for the future replacement of water lines and infrastructure. That's pretty much all I have. So just more information to come on the budget. We did order a new piece of equipment on the equipment replacement strategy that we put in place. So we got a new backhoe coming. We got good pricing on that, and then some of the additions to that will allow us to, when that piece of equipment gets replaced, we'll be able to keep some of the same attachments that go with it, not have to replace those every time. So that'll be nice. We sold our third vehicle that we had planned. We sold that one in about an hour and a half after posting it on KSL. So that process is working well. It was pretty awesome. I can almost schedule that for my schedule. When do I have time to sell a vehicle and post it and know by the afternoon. So my phone will blow up with a bunch of texts and phone calls. I'll answer one, sell it, and then take it off the site. So that works out really well for me. And it was, I think, really fair pricing, for the city. So.
Okay, so we got time. Okay.
Any questions for me? Oh, sorry,
Council.
Peter, that's your job.
Yeah. Council, questions for Ty or input you got, things you'd like to discuss? Go ahead and start.
What's the update on the bridge? Any news on the bridge over the River Kwai?
Yep, so we got four engineering companies that put in on the project. Lance and I are gonna be on the selection committee. We have a meeting on the 17th of March to go meet with UDOT, go through those proposals and then select an engineering company. So that is moving. I mean, we're finally to the point where we're selecting an engineer firm. The build won't start until next year, 2022, but we did get the solicitations complete, so.
Thank you.
You bet.
Other questions or input? Eric? David?
No, thanks for the report, Ty. Good work.
Jeffrey? Okay, Jeff?
Anything else?
Okay. One other thing to think about, COVID, so most you're aware that I think the COVID numbers are going down, at least continuing to be better all over. So, I'm a number nerd. I've been tracking state, Morgan and county and federal and US numbers from March. And they're looking really good right now worldwide, as well as Utah and Morgan. Don't know where that will go. Some of you have seen the CDC put out some recommendations, and the states put out some new recommendations. Ty, Denise, and Gary probably got more information on the actual dates. But supposedly the mask mandate may release or go away. The numbers may change. Those things are coming up potentially, hopefully, as long as the virus continues to decline in numbers. The vaccines are increasing, and vaccines also more people getting vaccinated, those that want to. With that said, as we look down the road, we may need to take a look at these meetings. At some point, if we want to try and come back in person, or I don't know legally if we can stay virtual or not, but think on that and don't need an input tonight, don't need an answer tonight. If you want to text me, probably need to talk about that at some point and see legally what we can do. Let Gary direct us on that. And then the other question is as far as what we want to do. As Tony mentioned, Ty's in the council room tonight. That's up and ready to go, and everything's available there for us to run meetings from that location with the screens, the computers, and all kinds of things. Some of you have already seen that. If you haven't been over to the office in the last little while, come on over and Ty or Denise can walk you through that if you'd like to see what has been done there. Anyway, so that's at some point, the situation would be we need to make that choice or decision unless Gary makes it for us. We go back to all in person. Hey, Gary, I'll turn time over to you for report from legislature if you're there. Gary? Almost looks like he's frozen.
Disappeared.
He is frozen.
Yeah, he is. So maybe we won't hear from
Can you
him.
guys hear me?
Well, I can comment on the room too, just so you know, like if it's in person, hybrid, we could do a hybrid approach too, where three of you come at once and we still broadcast the same way in an interactive manner. Anyway, the room set up that the whole room functions. now. Before you would have to been on individual computers, and it seems to be working really well. Everybody would just have their own microphone, and we can still have an interactive meeting from the council room. If that's what you decide to do, a hybrid meeting would still work just fine. We can do it. The technology will allow us to do it either way.
So Ty, you look like the judge there. Can you reverse my parking ticket?
Okay.
Oh, Gary's trying to get back in.
So we
No, I'm
must-
down. I'm at the bottom. The mayor's seat's up there. That's the,
Talking to the wrong person.
yeah, you're talking to the defendant here.
You're muted, Gary. There you go.
I see how this goes. You shut the attorney down at the very end. Make the meeting shorter. There's not
Yeah.
quite much to cover.
Yeah. We thought we were going to get out early tonight.
Shoot. So I don't know what happened. So
Good.
sorry.
You fell asleep there.
I'm going to blame it on the computer and say the computer fell asleep, not the attorney. So
Yeah.
We'll get you some broadband.
yeah, there you go.
Utopia.
Whatever you think, Gary, if you have some things you want to pass on this side, or if you want to prepare something for another meeting and we can wait for another meeting, your choice on what you think you'd like to pass on and when.
From the legislative session,
Or, yeah, all the above, anything you prefer.
that was one of the funnest sessions I've ever been to. It was like going to Disneyland every day. Oh, excuse me.
Bet.
Like being on the big screen every day. So
Yeah.
So it was an exciting year. There were a lot of changes every year. We fight the idea that somehow because you're elected to the state legislature that you become more intelligent than they are at a local level, and so they're continually trying to preempt local government's ability to do what I think they do best, better than they actually do up there oftentimes, unless you've served in local government. But and many times it's interesting because they'll put a bill in place, and that bill, you'll go up to them, you say, well, did you realize that this bill does this? And they go, well, no, I haven't read it. And that's pretty much it. They've got hundreds of bills that they go through a session, and quite frankly, the far-reaching implications of some of the things they do affect us, but they don't realize that it does. And a good example of that was I sent Ty a note just indicating that his lease program may be in jeopardy as a result of a change in one of the bills that came about as a result of a very mad car dealer down in Salt Lake. And it was on a totally different issue, but it would have adversely affected the excellent program that Ty runs. And actually, there are another couple cities that actually are operating under the same program. And when they figured out that it adversely affected them, we were able to get rid of that quite quickly. But I mean, all kinds of things. The very last day of the session, almost the last day of the session, they pulled out a bill that would redistribute our taxes again. That was McKay's bill. And it was like day 44 in the session. And all of a sudden he brings out a bill and he says that the cities really should be accepting of it. You know, right now that we split sales tax 50-50, right? And 50% goes to the city that actually takes in the tax, and 50% goes into a pool and is distributed by population. That's the way sales tax is distributed. And quite frankly, Morgan probably benefits from that considerably, just because a lot of the big cities will contribute, like the Layton City Mall or Farmington Station. Those big commercial areas will contribute to, and it's fair. They contribute by population to the entire state, and people from Morgan go and shop there. Well, what he suggested was, instead of forcing it down our throats all in one gulp, because he wants to take it to population only. And if you think about that, that would really hurt a community like Morgan. And so instead of doing that, he says, let's take 30% every single, or 10% every year. And we'll just kind of convert 10% to population every single year out of that 50% that currently goes to the entity that actually has the use in it. And so that was dead. That died on the last day of the session. He withdrew that. And the success up there is not measured in what passes, but what doesn't. And fortunately, there's a lot of bills that don't. They had a billboard bill that if you allow a commercial billboard to be lit anywhere within your jurisdiction, then you have to if you allow a digital sign to be lit anywhere in your jurisdiction, in your commercial code, you have to allow billboards to be lit in every commercial zone that you have in the city. So I could have the downtown area of Layton, I could have a small digital board that I would allow on a Maverick, or maybe I just allow it and Maverick's never built it. That's enough. That would have been enough to light every billboard in Layton City. So you'd have the impact of these bright billboards on the highways, and they're needed, but not everyone. And but they'd be able to light everyone. That died. Also, you'll be glad to know that there will not be a $375,000 fine for anyone who talks about taking a billboard off of a parcel of property or tries to talk the guy who is leasing the property out of the lease. That was the penalty that the billboard companies recommended for any legislator or any local government person that actually determines to do that. That one died as well. We had some other interesting, the water bills. They had a bill that actually would not let secondary water, and this is private or public, increase their bills by more than 10% a year, unless there was a compelling countervailing public purpose for doing that. And yet at the same time, they require that secondary water meter all of their water within 20 years. And so if you do the calculation, at least we did the calculation in Layton for Case Creek Irrigation Company, it would take us $4.5 million to put meters on all of our secondary water outlets. And if we could not raise our fees more than 10% a year, we would cover barely 10% of it. And you can do the calculations. So that didn't work. And it's interesting because the sponsor of the bill indicated that he hadn't done the calculations. And that when we actually showed him the numbers, he was surprised. And he said, but don't you see that we've actually given you $2 million? We've set aside $2 million this year for conversions. And we thanked him because our total conversion would be 4.5 million. In Morgan, it would be close to a million, I think it was 1.2 million or something to actually do all of the conversions at about $15 or $1,500 a conversion. So, I mean, there's things like that happen all the time. The biggest bills that you'll see a difference on and we'll have to actually adjust to is every home is in 75% of your jurisdiction is entitled to have a second dwelling unit in it. In other words, basement apartments are now allowed in every home in Morgan in 75% of your residential zones. There is no special building permit needed. You can require that they have a license or a certificate in order to do that. And they did put in their provision for actually discovering where these homes are when the actual owner of the home, because they have to be owner occupied, actually leaves and rents it as a duplex. Which, do you think that'll ever happen? Probably happen every once in a while.
Oh dear.
But the basic fundamental premise is that it'll create more homes for our kids. That's the fundamental premise at a lower cost. And there's a lot of credibility to that, I think. If you take a look around your neighborhoods, I don't know how many neighbors you have with second families in their homes, but I think there's probably quite a few. I've got 3 just surrounding me that have basement apartments in them. Got a set of lady missionaries. We got a couple that are going to school, and we've got another couple that have just rented, young couple that have rented a place. So that is a new
So,
change.
but right now, Gary, those are all, are an arrangement like that's typically connected by family. Isn't that correct? Where now it won't be.
That's correct. And now it won't be.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
It'll just have to be owner occupied. And they figure that if the owner's in the home, they won't let it go too far sideways.
I see.
And, I mean, there was some concern about water and sewer and, those types of things. But the counter to that was, these homes with 8 kids are flushing the toilet twice as fast as the people with a couple in their basement. So another big change was 98, and that was what I spent almost every day on up there. Initially, House Bill 98 required that we allow a builder to do their own inspections and occupancy permits on homes, and that we allow a builder to do their own plan review. So everything Mark did, the builder could do at their option. Now, if you can imagine, the end purchaser of a home really is purchasing a home that is built and inspected by the same guy, if that were the case. In addition to that, in the bill, there was a myriad of design criteria that we could not touch. It was patterned after a Texas law that did not allow the cities to control any aspect of design on a home. So that ended up, where that ended up is the league ended up taking a neutral position on it after we went back to the 14 days that were allowed now for plan review and the 3 days that were allowed for inspection. As long as we make those time periods, then the developer or the builder does not have an option to go out and get his own inspector. If, however, we go beyond those time periods, they do have the option of going out and getting their own inspector. However, you need to know that the banks don't like that, Dave.
Yeah, I can. No kidding.
They complained ferociously on this bill, and even the engineers and architects did not like it, simply because they did not want to pay the insurance that it will cost to become their own inspectors.
Okay. Yeah, good point.
Right now, they're covered by immunity. I mean, when we hire an inspector, and we do have the option of hiring additional inspectors if we need them. And that's the nice thing about Morgan, is we already do that. We already employ third-party inspectors. So I don't think it's going to affect life very much for us. But in the design area, it will affect us. We cannot control the main features. Anything to do with our historic district, we're okay with applying a design standard to that. But in just your plain subdivisions anymore, you can't define what kind of cladding or exterior treatment there should be on a home, and we can't define the type of roofing or roof that can go onto a home anymore. Landscaping, we're still able to control, except for the backyard landscaping, and we can still control the backyard landscaping as long as it's for water purposes. And so there's quite a few changes in there. There's a few other things that we can't touch, but any area or home that is over 50, dates prior to 1950 is not affected by this. And so there still are historic areas and the areas that are like our downtown, this doesn't apply to. And then also, we can also, by development agreement, apply those standards, or in our PRUDs or overlay zones, we can apply special design standards. So we still have the right to do that. We were able to put all of that back into it.
So Gary, would a restricted covenant arrangement, could that fill in some of those holes?
Excellent point. So this bill does not affect restrictive covenants. And so restrictive covenants are still going to be valid, and they're still going to impose those types of restrictions. I don't see them going away. They're probably going to become stronger.
How about a private development?
A private development would come under PRUD overlay or a PRUD overlay, and we can regulate design in those overlay zones. We did preserve all of that. They hate it, but we preserved it. And then it does not apply to commercial and does not apply to multifamily. And originally it applied to everything. So even your commercial buildings would have that issue. The only other thing in that bill that was kind of offensive was that when you have an earthquake or a flood or something of that nature, a person can rebuild their home without a building permit, but they have to have it finally inspected by a professional building inspector from the city. I don't know how that's going to work, but apparently the legislator was ticked off at some people that wouldn't let them rebuild their trailer homes up in Magna when they had that earthquake and they all slipped off the blocks. And so, and that's typically the way this works. They get angry at one small thing that happens and they end up in using a sledgehammer to try and straighten things out. Altogether, there were almost 200 bills that we followed. Many of them do and will have significance to you. There's one that I noticed where they have a new program for rural municipal development, economic development, and it's a loan program. We'll have to take a look at that. Ty, you may know something about that, but I was intrigued by it. There's another program, a PID program that we left untouched. Does anybody know what a PID is? Public Infrastructure Development Zone. This is where a developer can come in and tell a city, I want to pay for all of my utilities and my roads with taxes. And the way I want to do that is I want to tax myself. So before anybody actually builds a home in his subdivision, he imposes a tax on himself. And it is a legitimate tax. It's under our taxing power, the city's taxing power. But right now, the city has to authorize that. The new bill that was recommended this year removed the city from that consideration. So a developer could literally become a taxing entity, and he and his family become the taxing body. And then they tax everybody that comes into that subdivision afterwards. And they bond for all of the improvements. So they bond for the roads and all the pipes and everything. And they pay for it with the taxes that they will receive in the future from those subdivisions.
So what's the benefit to the developer then?
The developer gets all his infrastructure paid for without having to do it through the bank. So what he does is he writes a bond that now belongs to the PID. The PID is like a city. And so the PID is the taxing entity and they're also the bonding entity. And they tax those folks when they come in the same way we do through the county tax program. But right now the cities can set those up. There will be some instruction on that at the league meetings that they have in the fall. And it works in some areas, or excuse me, in the spring. And but here's the bad part of it is the developer can go around to the other side and he can purchase his own bonds. So not only do you
that doesn't make sense.
Are you the equivalent of a city? You can do your own taxing. You don't have to pay impact fees because it's all built for with tax dollars and loans based on, or bonds based on taxes. But you can also purchase your bonds on the back end. So you really don't care how high the interest rate is on the bond.
Because it's you.
Because it's you.
Yeah.
And the difficulty is that people, when they move into these things, have no idea of how high their taxes will end up going. So anyway, those were just a few of the things that we defeated. We did defeat that. This PID still exists, but it no longer, it still has city oversight and city has to approve it. So, and so far there's only been one that has been created in the state, and it's down in Provo. There's a few others that are being looked at, but there are a lot of other things, but one of the biggest trends that I've seen is the state's attempt to impose oversight committees on local government for everything, for water, for conservation, for privatization, for just about everything you can imagine. They would like a separate body, which of course consists by individuals appointed by the governor as oversight over what municipalities are doing and how they're doing it. And so in future years, I guess this is just a little taste of it. There's many, many more bills that that we managed to dampen up there. But I think we're going to see more and more of this as time goes on, especially with, I hate to say this, but with developers in leadership. It is a developer's world up there. I mean, anything.
Well, and a market that is just red hot contributes to their success too.
Yeah. My favorite part was this year, it was a recommendation from affordable housing, which was the development community, saying, yeah, we'll build affordable homes, but the city has to give us enough density to be able to make up what we lose from building those affordable homes. So who's paying for the density? Who's paying for the affordable homes? It's the city, you know? And there were a lot of bills. There was another one that wanted us to track every building permit from beginning to end. So where the building permit was paid, who paid it, where the money went, and then where it was spent. Every single dollar from a building permit, it wanted you to account for where you spent every dollar from that building permit. And all of that's supposed to make housing more affordable.
Yeah. But that one didn't pass, is that correct?
It didn't. No, it was taken out of Andreg's bill. So anyway, it was a lot of fun up there this year. I think I have another ulcer. I'm confident that I took at least 3 showers every time I came off the hill.
Yeah.
And I still don't feel clean yet. So
You didn't get COVID.
yeah, no.
All right.
So anyway, if you have any questions on anything, let me know. There's a lot of maybe I could hit a couple each meeting, and if it's interesting to you, I don't know if it's interesting to you to hear about it.
That's a good report. Thank you.
You have they do a legislative update at the league.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a really good opportunity because they have a chance to get their arms around everything and then summarize it in a meaningful way. And then Wasatch Front Regional Council also has a summary page, those things related to economic development and transportation. So those are 2 pretty good resources just for major changes.
And the league actually puts a wrap up on their webpage. So you can actually go and by category, they'll outline it as well as at the conference. You're right.
They used to print up a little handbook. I don't know if they still do that or not.
It's online now.
Oh, no, I would have thought so.
I appreciate your support up there. It's invaluable. Ann Milner is probably, she's an up and coming star up there. She's just quiet, but she goes around and gets things done. We miss Logan very, very much, by the way. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anything else, anybody? Okay, all right. Thank you again for all joining us. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your thought process, the things you think about, and the way you handle decisions. I appreciate it as a council. So thank you. Okay.
You're awesome.
Thanks.
Meeting adjourned. See ya.
Hey, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Gary.
Yes.
Now that we're the meeting's adjourned, how well do you know Mike Schultz?
Very well.
The reason I asked that, he's bought up half of Lost Creek in the last 2 or 3 years. So
No question.
yeah.
I asked Mike the other day, I said, Mike, do you know what affordable housing really